Aloha and welcome to Coffee with Conversation for Well-Being. Today, our guest is Lisa Dahl, and she offers many different things. She is a certified intuitive eating and body image health coach. Through intuitive eating, she helps women undiet their lives, and I'm sure it works for men also, right?
Absolutely.
She helps people undiet their lives, make peace with their food and their body. Lisa teaches people to listen, trust, and respect their bodies to be happy, healthy, and confident at any size. She has certifications in intuitive eating, health and wellness coaching, personal training, and group facilitation from the Body Positive and Gratefulness.org. Lisa's coaching philosophy is to ditch that diet and focus on progress, not perfection. That sounds awesome to me. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So there's lots of questions, and throughout the week, once we posted this, I started getting questions about what is an undiet? What does that mean? And how did you come up with that?
That is a great question. Undieting is the antithesis of the traditional diet. Diets tell you what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, and the diet expert, whoever that thing, person, community, culture, is the expert. And it tells everybody what to do and knows nothing about you. Undieting is taking back your power. And it is ditching the food rules, the good food, the bad food, the I'm good, I'm bad, I can have this, I can't have this, following structure. Undieting is throwing all the rules out the window and learning how to be in your body, getting out of your head and into your body to learn how to listen, trust, and respect what your body needs. So it is the absolute antithesis, change of perspective of dieting.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
It is life-changing.
Did you come to this because you had struggled with the way you were eating, or what happened? Like, what brought you to this place?
So how I came to this was I had been dieting since I'm 12 years old. It was all that I have known my entire life. And I could diet better than most people, where I was able to restrict for very long periods of time. And my last profession, I'm a former caterer, which I loved. And when I was really ready to change professions, I figured I know so much about health and wellness. I'm going to be a health and wellness coach, and I'm going to help women lose weight because it's been so important to me. It has kept my mind busy and focused for 40 years. And then I discovered once I received my certification, I continued because of my drive to be the best coach that I could be. I continued to take classes and research and read. And I came across a book called Health at Every Size. And written by Dr. Linda Bacon. And that was the beginning of a rabbit hole that I have never come back from. Because if somebody had told me that you can be healthy at any size, I would have said, no, that's not true. And from there, I discovered the practice of intuitive eating and discovered that I had my own disordered eating challenges. And through working through the education of earning my certification in intuitive eating, I was able to heal my own disordered eating challenges and knew ethically and morally that I could no longer support women to lose weight, and had changed my entire belief system about our bodies and sizeism and healthism and the thin ideal, and realized that dieting is the pathway to disordered eating and eating disorders, and that we have so much more to give that's in our head and our heart than the vessels in which we have been landed in.
So you kept using the term disordered eating, and we know what an eating disorder is, like bulimia. What is disordered eating?
So disordered eating patterns are all of those rules that we live and die by: the restriction, the deprivation. And because our society has become to think that they are normal, it doesn't mean that they're healthy and that they're good practices for us. As dieters, we often ignore our hunger. We can sit for days and weeks and months with restriction and deprivation. And we're all the way over here. And then the dam breaks. And then we land all the way over here and we go into the refeed and the binge cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how our society thinks that dieting is normal and is acceptable.
Yo-yo dieting, right?
It is that yo-yo dieting, is that roller coaster. And those are just simple examples of disordered eating. Somebody might challenge me, but intermittent fasting is a form of restriction and deprivation and can turn in, and is disordered eating. It's not for me to judge what is best for you. That is somebody's personal choice. Working with my clients, I work on helping them learn to listen and to understand their body cues. And when we get out of our head and start to be able to notice the nuances of our hunger and the different types of hunger that we experience, we begin to realize that we have all these rules and restrictions that kept us from listening and being embodied. So it's really getting rid of the rules and connecting and being true to ourselves. And that's hard because we're told the diet is the expert. And now I'm flipping it on our head and I'm saying, nope, we're going to learn to be the expert on ourselves.
That's awesome. So do you often get people who are looking for weight loss? Or are you looking for people who are looking to get out of disorganization or to get out of having an eating disorder? Like what does your client base look like? What draws them to you?
So one of the first questions that I typically get is, I'm tired of dieting and I'm interested in this intuitive eating thing and I want to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
My response is, I have no idea if you will lose weight, gain weight, or stay the same. And when we work together, we are not weighing our bodies and we're not weighing our food. As long as the scale is part of the equation, you cannot be an intuitive eater, because in the back of your mind, you're still doing calorie counting or macros, or the food police are chattering in your head. Yes, you can. No, you can't. So it's really about learning to quiet those voices. And so my clients, and we struggle, we're not saying like, oh, I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden you don't have that desire to get on the scale. It doesn't work that way. I mean, in my perfect world, I always say, I want to see you go to the highest place that you can find in your house or condo or apartment or wherever you live, and take the scale, open your window and throw it out with as much force and venom as you can. Don't donate it. Don't pass it along. Don't gift it to anybody, because it is one of the most toxic things that we can have in our house. It does nothing to bring us joy.
Yeah, well, I could tell you, there's been plenty of times where I felt like I was starting to feel better. My clothes were fitting me different. I must have lost weight. And then I get on a scale and it's like, nah, you didn't. It's either redistributing or whatever. And it just sets you back. You're like, wow, like what is going on?
Right. I'd say I'll work with clients who will be making changes in their mindset and their behaviors and their actions, and they feel great. And then they can't resist the urge to get on the scale. And all of that work, they feel defeated. When we take that off of our way to measure success and progress, it continues to allow yourself to be connected to your body and focus on how you feel and not how you look. There's 5 of us here. We all look different. And how do we be the healthiest that we as individuals can and want to be? My idea of health is going to be different than your idea of health. I don't tell my clients what to do. I don't hold them accountable. I support them and stand by them. This is their path, and everybody's path looks a little bit different, and everybody starts at a different place. And I meet them where they are at. And it's a practice that takes time and patience and self-compassion. There's no right or wrong. You cannot fail intuitive eating. It's not like a diet where you're going, oh, I failed that one too. I'm going to try this one and I'm going to be a little bit better at it on Monday morning. Intuitive eating and mindful eating is all about the practice. And the good news is that every time you choose to eat, it is a practice. It's not right or wrong. It's part of the practice.
So knowing that, how do you ascertain whether or not you are being successful or not being successful?
So a couple of the tools that I use, and that's a great question, because I just started with a new group of women this week in my Body, Peace, and Food Freedom program. And there's 3 assessments that I offer to my clients. It's the intuitive eating assessment, how has dieting interfered with your life assessment, and a self-care assessment. And it's all about being willing to view it with curiosity and not judgment, so that we can look at this and say, okay, here's where you're really struggling. Out of these things, what's really important to you? What connects you right now? On where do we want to focus? So we offer, when I work with my clients, it's about education, information, as well as meeting them where they are and deciding what's their next best step.
Okay, that sounds pretty awesome. And I love that you have assessments for somebody to take to see where they're at themselves. So did I hear you say that you have a group starting? Do you only do groups, or do you do some one-on-one?
I do both. I offer one-on-one coaching, and several times a year, I offer my Body, Peace, and Food Freedom program. And we just had the welcome, so I have space for a couple of other women if that is something that you are interested in. What it is, it's one-on-one coaching with a small group experience. Mm-hmm. So every Tuesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, we meet for education, connection, community as a group via Zoom. So you can be anywhere. And then every other week, I meet individually with you to talk about where you are at and what's important and what your experience is. And we go through the 6 months. It's a 6-month program, and it's really about unpacking the baggage that we all come with, our body stories. What is in that bag that needs to go? Is it the shame? Is it the guilt? The feeling of out of control? Is it the loss of trust? You know, who helped you pack that bag? Where did you learn to distrust and dislike your body? Was it from diet culture? Was it from a teacher, a doctor, a parent, your mother and her relationship to food, or a parent or a caregiver and their relationship to food? Because we pass those messages on to our children. When we look in the mirror and we body check and we're like, oh, I don't like the way I look, or I feel yucky, or whatever it is, our children are listening, and they take those messages and say, well, if she doesn't like her body and I look just like her, how could I like my body? How do we change that conversation? How do we change that dialogue? How do we not bond with body bashing and come together with joy and gratitude on what our bodies can do?
Well, and it seems like culturally, we feel like there's got to be a bad guy. So there's fat shaming, and then there was thin shaming, and there's shame shaming. And it's like, oh, just stop with all the judgment. And I see how it would help you, how working with you would help someone get to that place where you start releasing all that judgment. Now you have 5 pillars. Is that what it is? 5 pillars?
Yes. So what I have discovered, because it wasn't like I started out with 5 pillars, it was just kind of as things have evolved. And within my coaching, I really started to take a look and said, you know what? I have a foundation. And the foundation is about intuitive eating, mindful eating, health at every size, non-judgmental self-awareness, and self-compassion. And they're all interwoven. They don't stand alone. They do stand alone, and they are all connected. And they all need each other. It's, when we're making changes, how do we be kind to ourselves? When we're looking at our bodies, how many times have you looked in the mirror and ever said, I can be healthy at any size? That my reflection, just because it might be here, doesn't mean that I'm not healthy. If I'm moving and I feel good in my body and my blood work all is positive and in the right range, I am healthy. This doesn't make you any healthier. And how do we change that conversation that it is not about this or this?
That is awesome. When you first got into this, did you find it difficult to really talk to people about it? Like how did you come into a place where you could really let people, this is what we're doing. We're not doing this, we're doing this. And how much of that is really based on the person's willingness to deep dive into themselves?
And it's an interesting question, because while I was working with clients focusing on weight loss, I was starting to transition into a weight inclusive coaching practice. And it took a while for, how I started to coach and take away that scale, because it felt so, I felt the stress of weighing myself. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling the anxiety of having my clients share their progress and the shame that they felt. And it feels so icky. So I started to naturally take that away. And it was just one small shift at a time. And as I became more comfortable of shedding my diet rules and my diet thoughts, because if somebody had told me that I was not going to diet for the rest of my life and worry about what size I am every living, breathing moment of my day, I would never have believed them. If somebody had told me that I would be able to enjoy, I love to cook. I'm a former caterer. I had tons of rules and restrictions. I am happy to cook for 300 people, but I can have a bite, but I'm not going to be able to enjoy a full meal of that because of all the rules that I had in my head. And at some point, all of a sudden, I was able to say, I'm not doing this anymore. This is how I practice. And it just was such a natural progression. And then as new women came into my practice, that was what I offered. And it was scary the first time to say, well, we're not going to weigh you, and I'm thinking like, well, how am I going to figure out if you're moving along? Because it's just not about the weight. It's everything else. It's not about the food. How do you feel? What is your energy? How happy are you? Where are you finding joy? Are you able to do the things that you want to do? Are you unable to do the things because somebody told you that you can't? How do we change that conversation? How, when you have those thoughts, how do you feel? What are your actions? What is your outcome? We can change those thoughts so that you feel better in your body. So it took a while to really stand on my own 2 feet and say, this is what I am. And I am so grateful that I took that plunge and did it.
Now, do you find with your clients that even though originally it's about the food or about how you look at yourself, that ultimately there's other positive changes that happen in their lives? Like, does not focusing on the food anymore help to open up energetics, like their energy, so they have energy to accomplish goals that they didn't have before? Like, what are the ancillary benefits, would you say?
And you even touched on them. It frees up space in your head. All the time, the money, and the energy that you spend focusing on counting calories, calorie math, meal planning, creating these documents, writing everything that you have ever eaten down, morning, noon, and night. use that time and energy for things that you want to do. And when you start to feel more confident in your body, let's say that you're a parent, you can play and be with your children versus watching your children. It's letting go of that guilt and that shame and hiding and showing up in pictures as opposed to being behind the camera, being present. All the money that you spend on the next best diet, all the diet foods, all of the things that suck you dry, get pushed away. And you start to fill in with things. It's not that we take away, we fill in, and then there starts to be less room for the yuck because you keep adding in things that make you feel better.
Okay. So when you first enter into it, if you have someone who maybe they're not fully in their body, they're completely in their head, and maybe they don't ever feel satisfied when they're eating. Like I know someone who they will wait as long as they can during the day until they're like really, really hungry before they'll eat anything, because they know once they start eating, they don't stop. They just they eat anything that's in front of them or behind them or underneath them or above them, whatever they can reach, they're eating, and they don't ever have that satisfied feeling. Like, what is your idea on that, or what do you think about that?
I have lots of ideas on that. And that has to do with our relationship with our food and honoring our hunger. Because when we, as dieters, we ignore our hunger. So there's something called Intraceptive Awareness. So an example of that is if your bladder is full, you feel the pressure, and no matter where you are going to find some place to properly relieve yourself. As dieters, we get hungry, but we're like, nah, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to wait. I'm busy. If I eat now, I'm going to eat all day. I don't trust myself. We learn to honor our hunger, because when we feed our bodies don't go back into that refeed process. Because what you're talking about is the binge cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because our bodies are saying, well, I'm starving. When the door opens, they're going to eat and they're going to eat and they're going to eat, because they don't trust you. The body doesn't trust you that you're going to refeed it again. And then we say, oh, I have no self-control. I'm an emotional eater. All of these things that when we take the step back and make some shifts with our relationship with food and listening to what our signals are in our body, and it takes time. When you have shut them down and closed that door, we have to open that door just a little bit at a time and start to understand and listen to the signals and to respect and honor those signals with food and kindness. And when we talk about emotional eating, how do we, emotional eating, where like it has this horrible negative thought. And the real gift is that your body is telling you you're either stressed or anxious or bored or tired or whatever that is. When we view it as a gift and say, okay, what am I feeling? What do I need? We can build out our self-care toolbox that's greater than the cookie box. And sometimes cookies are the answer, because there's no rules. And when we learn to eat mindfully, mm-hmm. and I think you're going through my 5-day mindful
I love
experience.
Yeah.
It is, you can eat whatever you want. It's being present with your food. I mean, the first practice is learning to sit, to eat only when you're sitting. And I mean, I do this for a living, and I still catch myself that I'm cooking dinner and I'm standing and putting food in my mouth, or I grab a handful of nuts and I can't wait 20 feet until I go sit down and eat. It's learning to be present with ourselves. And when you start to practice these skills, it changes our relationship. And when we binge, if we practice being present in our binge and noticing the different sensations in our body, it changes our binge as well. So it's not a cut and dry, well, here's what you have to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. We are talking about time, patience, practice, and self-compassion, and being able to heal our relationship to food.
So when people come to you and they do the 6-month program, do they, like, is there maintenance afterwards that's available, or is it usually they do the 6 months and they feel good for a while, and then some people might need it a second time, or, you know, like what are the things that they can do after that?
So I wouldn't use the word maintenance, because maintenance is hand in hand with a diet. So that, here's your jumpstart phase, and then you go into the restrict phase, and then you add back, and then you can maintain. With the practice of intuitive eating and mindful eating, it's a forever practice.
Mhm.
And my last group that finished in November, they were like, okay, what's next? And what we decided to do is that we meet once a month, because they like the connection, they like the community, they like to talk about their experiences. And we're doing, we're going to read a book and talk about our bodies. We're going to talk about what's important to them this month. What are they experiencing? What's a win? Where are they still finding challenges? And even as an intuitive eating professional, every time I share the different principles of the practice of intuitive eating, I still pick up different nuances. It just continues to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And every time you hear something or learn something, you come to it with a different place and a different nuance. So we meet. So the answer is that we have decided that once a month, some of the women have chosen to do some one-on-one coaching in addition to the monthly. So there's a couple of different options, but they really love the connection in the community, and they were not ready to let that go.
That's good. That says a lot, I think. When you
it really, they were like, well, what's next? And I was like, well, I hadn't really thought about what's next. So we created, I said, tell me, they created what's next.
Mhm.
And because dieting and diet culture is so pervasive, it's scary to go out there without that connection and the community, to know that there is another thing that's happening. There is another perspective. There is another way. And it takes time to get comfortable and confident that it's a practice, and that you can eat ring dings and Cheetos over the weekend and you didn't break your diet. Curiosity, what was happening? Were you snuggled up on the couch with your 10-year-old and they wanted a bag of Cheetos and you had some? So what? How do we change that conversation from curiosity away from judgment?
So I just had something. It'll come back. Give me a second.
That's all right. It happens to all of us.
Well, because the information, there's so much good information that I'm being very present when you're speaking and still trying to set up the next question. Anybody who watches me knows I don't have things. I'm not militant with things to begin with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the perfectionism, because that's part of the problem.
Right. Well, and I love that the philosophy is to ditch the diet and to focus on progress, not perfection. I love that. You have mentioned diet culture. What is that exactly? Like, what does that mean?
Diet culture is all about what we are seeing and hearing. You have to be thin. You have to show up in a certain way. Good food, bad food, the right body, the wrong body. Have to have the curve between your legs. All of those things that tell you how you should be. There's only like somewhere between like 3 and 5% of the world that looks like that. I mean, how can that be normal? How could that be our expectation? So diet culture is the low-fat cookies, the eat this, not that, the keto diet, the paleo diet, healthism. I can only eat clean. I can only eat organic. It's the rigidity. It is the expectations. It is a frame of mind that tells you that you have to be one way to be acceptable, to be loved, to be able to enjoy yourself. Everybody's body deserves respect. and joy and compassion, not just a thin, small body.
You kept using the word should. And what I tell my clients all the time is stop shoulding all over yourself.
Yes, it is the coaching word. It is, and it's
not
the
a good
should.
word.
It needs to go out the window with the scale. And it is learning to change your perspective, that you, as I started with when we first got on, is learning to be the expert on yourself. That the diet world, all these people selling you products and promises and magic potions, that's the diet culture. They tell you that they're the experts, that they're going to fix you. There's nothing broken with you. How do you be the expert on you? How do you accept your here and now body? Because all of our here and now bodies look different. And how we look today is going to be different how we look tomorrow. And how do we get out of when we greet somebody? And it's even more pronounced now with COVID, where so many people have been sheltering and hiding, and then they're coming out and seeing people. And the comment is, it's either silence or, oh, you look so great. Did you lose weight? How do we change that conversation to, I'm so happy to see you? Because when we greet somebody about their body, we don't know if we are praising their disordered eating, their eating disorder, they have had an illness, they're experiencing grief. We don't know what's going on in their life. And that was one of the things that kept me in my disordered eating, is that the expectations of, oh, you look so great, you've lost weight, you're so thin, you're this, because thin was the ideal that I was supposed to, that I had, hit nirvana. Like somebody told me I was thin, and I gained my confidence from that and didn't trust that I was more than just a small body in the height of my dieting days. How do we get rid of that? And when we comment on people's bodies, we need to learn to set boundaries and not offer comments on bodies. If you notice something different about somebody's body, you might say, you look sad. What's happening? What's going on in your life? If somebody looks amazing, your eyes sparkle. What's making you happy? Not commenting on their bodies, asking, how are you? Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, being more personable as opposed to objective.
Yes, absolutely.
So let me know, how do people get in touch with you? And what does that look like? You have a website?
You can learn more about me at my website, which is Lisa Dahl, DAHL Wellness. So Lisa Dahl Wellness has all the information. You can connect with me on my calendar there. I'm always welcoming emails, Lisa at Lisa Dahl Wellness. I'm very approachable.
.wellness.com?
Yes, so it's lisadahlwellness.com.
Okay, we just want to make sure if I put that up.
Yes, that's it.
And I love your last name.
I have to credit my ex-husband for that one. It was even better when I was catering, and the name of my catering company was called Simply Dalicious Custom Catering and Confections. So it was when I left catering, it was I left part of my identity with the Simply Dalicious, because that's how people knew me.
Yeah.
And and now my daughter does web design, and she is Dollhouse Design. So the Dollhouse Design. So it's a great last name. And, even the marriage is over, I'm keeping the name. I like it.
It's very malleable. You could do a lot of things with it there.
It's fun. As long as nobody's calling me Barbie or Ken, I'm good.
Yeah, I guess that would be a risk. So, okay. So if somebody's going to get involved with doing one of these programs, what do you feel is the best way to figure out whether or not working with you is what they want to do? Is it just going to the website? Is it a one-on-one call? Is it doing the 5-day? What do you think?
there's multiple paths. I love talking to people. Let's see if we are a good fit. Tell me your story. Let me hold that space for you and with you. I am super excited, for people who, because sometimes that's a scary thing to really kind of put yourself out there and connect one-on-one. So I'm super excited that I am now offering a 5-day mindful eating experience, which is another great way to get to know me. And hopefully that will be on my website in the next 24 to 48 hours. We were hoping to get it on, but tech and I don't go hand in hand. So some things just take a little bit longer than I like them to. But that's a great way for you to get to know me. It is an email each day with a 2-minute video, a short little thing that you can read, and really holds your hand on how to do the practice. And you can't fail the practice because it's practicing. When we practice, we make mistakes. So there isn't, oh no, I didn't do it. It's awareness, and it's there for the next time that you want to practice. So yeah, it's not like a diet.
I'm really enjoying being on that because it is short and sweet and to the point. As we know, a lot of people are really busy. I mean, you're working from home, so you're actually working more than you were when you weren't working from home, and
guilty.
Lots of stuff all over the place. So having something that I know I can go to in the beginning of the day, and it's a quick read, and it takes me no more than 5 minutes to get it, to digest it, and then I can go on with my day and actually do it, is wonderful. Because so many times you get things from people and it's a half an hour video or this big long email you got to read. And you're like, I don't have time for that. My attention span is not there. And so then you end up putting things aside. And when you put things aside, how many times do you go back into your email and go back and get it? Very seldom. Right. So I think that was brilliant.
I've taken a long time to get there because I have a lot to say, and I keep trying to edit, and I'm working on something called 9 different types of hunger. And I've been working on it, and like, I'm looking at the script and I'm going, no, you need to cut that. You need to cut that. And I'm going, but it's such good information. Like, no, you need to cut it. Nobody wants to hear it. They just need the details. And
you could always have an addendum. You could always have like, here's the things. And then you have your little asterisks and saying, if you want to know more about this, here's another article that's specifically about this. If you want to, so that people have other places to go. But while they're reading the article, they're just getting the meat. Right. And then if
you need to come, the other you stuff, need to come to my Tuesday. You need to come to the group to get to the full nuances, to fully understand the different levels in which you can go to. So I have worked really hard at keeping it small, because I am challenged with wanting to I want everybody to know so much to be able to heal themselves. And I know better. I know that less is more, and that we only have the capacity for this. And all these little thises are what adds up over time. There's no race. It doesn't have to be blah, here it is. So as I edit tomorrow, I'm going to remember my words tonight.
There you go.
So feel free to reach out for that as well.
Sounds good. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we go? Because we're about to wrap up.
Just if you are struggling with food and your body, you are not alone, and that there is another perspective. There is another way to think. And you deserve to have body peace and food freedom, that you don't have to be stuck in the regiment of diet mentality, of the rules and the restrictions and the regulations and the deprivations. And going back to, what I said, you cannot fail this. It's not as if you woke up and you chose to have a donut and the rest of the day is like, well, I might as well go into the M&Ms. I might as well have all of those things. It doesn't work that way. We remove all of that. We learn to make peace with food. And it takes time, practice, and self-compassion.
I love that word, self-compassion. We're going to touch on that more probably as we move forward. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. I just am so grateful and appreciative to be able to share what I do, because it just makes such a difference in my life and in other women's lives.
Thank you. And men, right?
Yes, and men, because everybody needs support. I don't mean to self-select.
It's just
But
that the majority that you're working with right now are women, but
yes,
she also takes men, so don't forget that.
yes, I do one-on-one for
Mhm.
men. The women really focuses on the women so that it is a brave, safe space to be able to unpack their bags.
Mhm. And if she had enough men, like if you got your friends involved, she'll do a
Yes,
men's group.
absolutely. 100%. That would be amazing. I would
Yes,
love that.
that would be awesome.
So, yes.
So this is Geralyn, and this has been Coffee with Conversation for Wellbeing. Our guest today is health and wellness coach Lisa Dahl, and her website is lisadahlwellness.com. Everything is down below, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome.